fiscal practices? No. The County Council also has the authority to set its own budget, unlimited by the county executive. This body ought to seriously consider funding staff with expertise in the fields of economics, policy and fiscal analysis, and data analysis to better support this neglected oversight function of local government. There's plenty of opportunities for cost savings in the BOE's massive operating and capital budgets, but they're not going to gladly identify and agree to them. Two quick examples of waste. Capital. Severna Park High School, a while ago, installation of brand new lockers, which prior to opening day were meticulously zip-tied shut to ensure they would never be used. And the operating budget, school bus transportation.
Mr. Svensson, your 2 minutes have expired.
Yep. Could I finish that up?
Yeah, go ahead and finish that last sentence.
Their own consultant identified $2.48 million in annual cost savings from school bus route consolidations, but their 23 budget is asking for additional funding for overcrowded buses. We need an explanation.
Thank you very much. Linda Davis, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, hello. I'm Linda Davis, 215 Coronet Drive, Linthicum, Maryland. I'm here to express my support for an effective police accountability board that has subpoena powers and paid investigators, voting members with representatives from the Anne Arundel County branch of the NAACP, the Caucus of African American Leaders, United Black Clergy, Community Actively Seeking Transparency, and CASA, and that the non-voting members include the Anne Arundel County Police Department, Human Relations Commission, Black Police Officers Association, and the ACLU. I would like the Police Accountability Board's membership to reflect the populations, identities, communities, and geographic areas that have the most law enforcement encounters, instead of the county population at large, and instead of people like me who have not been impacted by police brutality or racial profiling. I would like the Police Accountability Board to be adequately funded and staffed, and I would like the budget for the Police Accountability Board to include an independent legal counsel, and I would like the administrative law judge on the trial board to be publicly vetted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. If there is anyone else here who wishes to speak, you may come up to the table and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Filetetto, Poplar Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland. Hello again. I'm here again to ask you to support a resolution urging our Congress to pass a single-payer Medicare for All bill. I'm hoping that the last 2 years of the COVID pandemic have shown you the serious shortcomings of our current healthcare system and the urgent need for a universal healthcare program. A study from The Lancet estimates that 40% of COVID-related deaths in the U.S. could have been prevented with a universal healthcare system when compared to other G7 nations. Based on that estimate locally, that would mean approximately 400 of the almost 1,000 COVID-related deaths we've had in our county could have been prevented. And this does not count the thousands of people in our county who will have large, potentially crippling hospital bills due to COVID hospitalization, which includes people who have good health insurance. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are many other countries who have made the switch to single payer before us that we can look to determine how to best revamp our healthcare system. I feel like some of you would like to support our switch to a single payer system but aren't informed enough on how that system would work, especially how it would be paid for enough to support it and explain to constituents who may also fear a change. We often prefer the devil we know. That is why I'm inviting you to the Maryland Progressive Healthcare Coalition's webinar next Wednesday, February 16th at 7 p.m. that will go over the basics of how a single-payer Medicare for All system would work and how it would be paid for, amongst other information. I will be emailing all you this information. I urge you to join and voice any questions or concerns you have about such a system. And I also want to reiterate to our conservative council members, that there is a conservative case for single payer and how it would greatly help local businesses, which you often show support for. Look forward to seeing you on the call next week. Also want to speak about the Police Accountability Board that's being introduced tonight. After diligently working in good faith to help crafting of this bill and what a PAB might look like, not a single one of the recommendations by the coalition of organizations that worked on this were included in the bill. Again, we're not reinventing the wheel. After the record numbers of people protesting for police reform in 2020, which many of you supported, it'll be a slap in the face for all of us to pass a watered-down bill that does not make any meaningful changes on the oversight of our police.
Thank you, Mr. Atetto. All right, at this time, the invitation to audience is now closed. Is there any item any council member would like to place on the agenda? All right, may I have a motion that the partial reading of any bill, resolution, amendment to a bill or resolution or minutes constitutes the reading of the whole?
So moved, Lacey.
Is there a second?
Second, Councilman Persky.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Madam Secretary, please read the minutes of January 18th, 2022.
Minutes of January 18th, 2022. The meeting was called to order by Chair Rodvian at 7 p.m. and opened with the invocation given by Ms. Lacey, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting was held in the County Council Chambers, Arundel Center, Annapolis, Maryland. There were approximately 15 persons in the audience.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 18th, 2022?
So moved, Lacey.
Is there a second?
Councilman Persky, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The minutes of January 18th, 2022 stand approved as read. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of any bills to be introduced this evening.
Bill number 1622, an ordinance concerning Police Accountability Board. Bill number 1722, an ordinance concerning planning and development master plan for water supply and sewerage systems. Bill number 1822, an ordinance concerning finance, taxation, and budget opioid abatement special revenue fund. Bill number 1922, an ordinance concerning aggregate net energy metering credit purchase agreement, Glen Burnie Landfill Solar LLC. Bill number 2022, an ordinance concerning legislative branch compensation benefits. Bill number 2122, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development and zoning cluster development.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the titles of any resolutions to be introduced this evening.
There are no resolutions to be introduced this evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you. May I have a motion to suspend the rules to hear and vote on resolution number 1-22 first this evening?
So moved, Allison Pickard.
Councilman Persky, second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to hear and vote on resolution number 1-22 first this evening.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacey.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Nay.
Mr. Prusky.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The motion to change the order to hear and vote on resolution number 122 has been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the title of resolution number 1-22.
Resolution number 122, resolution proposing an amendment to the Charter of Anne Arundel County to require the establishment of a system of public campaign financing for candidates for county executive and county council.
Thank you. I see our team from the County Executive's Office coming down. Mr. Barron, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pete Barron with the administration. Joining me today, we have a guest from the Maryland Board of Elections, Mr. Jared DeMarinis. He's here for informational purposes. He oversees campaign finance for the state of Maryland. So also with us from our Office of Law is Ms. Lori Blair-Klausmeyer, as usual. This is the first resolution of the year. It's an extremely important resolution. The county executive has said it's one of the most important that we have brought forward in our entire term. What this resolution does, it asks the council to put a charter amendment before the voters for approval in the 2022 election, which, if approved, will create a system of public financing for county elections for the offices of county executive, county council. This is not a new concept, and it doesn't benefit one party or another. It's a system that Governor Hogan used. He used the state system, a very similar system to the one that's being proposed here, to become governor in his election in 2014. It's being used in Howard County by a Republican candidate for county executive who actually opposed the creation of the program when it was first proposed there. It's been used by Democrats in other jurisdictions that have the system. It's been used by Democrats across the state in the governor's fair funding system. The system would be voluntary. A candidate would have to choose to join and meet certain qualifications. What the voluntary system of public financing election allows is for qualified candidates to run for office by collecting many small donations and receiving the public funds to match those to run their campaign. All the systems that exist ban participants in public financing from accepting large amounts of campaign money from PACs, corporations, unions, special interests. So what we're asking you to do here tonight is not to create the system. The resolution in front of you actually spells out a procedure where a commission would be formed, the details would be brought forward for future council to put in place. The question before you today is whether the voters should decide whether we should have public financing in Anne Arundel County. We hope you will pass it tonight. Mr. Demarinis, if you want to add anything about how the system has worked in other counties, please feel free. Otherwise, hope you'll move it.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Jared Demarinis, Director of Candidacy and Campaign Finance for the Maryland State Board of Elections, just for the record here. Thank you for also moving this up first on the agenda. I appreciate that as well. It has been successfully run in Montgomery County since 2018, and we are now in the second iteration of that program there. It has been a bipartisan program in Montgomery County, and it's the first time ever in Howard County, and they have worked out some of their kinks today, I've heard, and so now distributions will be starting to be made in that county on a bipartisan basis there as well. It is other counties have adopted this and has moved across the state with Prince George's, Baltimore County, all in looking at programs. Prince George's has passed a program and will be using it in the subsequent gubernatorial election year, which would be 2026. And Baltimore County is also on task for that as well. And I believe the city is also, Baltimore City is looking at a program. So this is not, this is a program that has been getting some grassroots support. It seems to be growing in its stature. The state has also had it, and it's been used successfully, like Mr. Barron said, by the governor, and subsequently been used by other candidates as well for their funding. So I'm here to answer any questions, and happy to whatever you need.
Are there any questions from my colleagues? All right, seeing none, we will maybe have some after our public hearing. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming to our meeting this evening, Mr. Demarinis.
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
Excellent. All right, we will now open the public hearing on resolution number 1-22. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 39 submissions of testimony through the online testimony tool. We also received one letter in the Dropbox outside the Arundel Center. Copies of everything went to the council, been added to the record, and are included in the summary that is posted online.
Thank you. We will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on resolution number 1-22. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. I'm going to call the first, let's see, we have 6 chairs down there? I'll call the first 6 names. Morgan Drayton, Kellen Morris, William Kraus, Jesse Noviello, Henrice Roberts, and Jean Cooper. And I apologize if I didn't get anyone's names right. I look forward to hearing the correct pronunciation. All right, is Morgan here? Morgan's here. State your name and address for the record, and you may begin.
Good evening. My name is Morgan Drayton. I'm Policy and Engagement Manager for Common Cause Maryland. My address is 2005 Bunker Hill Court in Odenton. Common Cause Maryland is a member and organizer of the Fair Elections Maryland Coalition, which has been advancing campaign finance programs like this one under discussion here at the county and state level. First, I would like to thank County Executive Stuart Pittman for his leadership in introducing this legislation, as well as the members of the County Council for their careful consideration of this important issue for our county's democratic process. If passed, this resolution will put the question of creating a public financing program, also known as a fair election program, on the ballot for public vote in the November 2022 election. These programs work by incentivizing candidates to participate in a new system of fundraising where large contributions and contributions from corporations and PACs are sworn off, while small dollar donations from regular residents of Anne Arundel County are amplified so that even the smallest donation can have a huge impact. As a lifelong resident of Anne Arundel County, I am so excited that we are on the path to becoming the 6th jurisdiction in the state to establish a public financing program for our county council and executive elections. Public campaign financing programs help shift power away from wealthy special interest donors and toward voters. One of the most important aspects of fair election programs is that, particularly as campaigns get vastly more expensive each cycle, they allow regular people to run on the power of their ideas instead of having to rely on wealthy interests. And publicly funded campaigns allow candidates from more diverse backgrounds, including more Black people, people of color, younger people, and women, to run competitive campaigns without pre-existing personal wealth or access to large donor networks. With that said, we look forward to working with the County Council, County Executive Pittman, and my fellow county residents to bring public financing to Anne Arundel County. Common Cause Maryland urges a favorable vote on Resolution 1-22. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Kellen Morris. Nope. Okay. William Kraus?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Madam Chairman, my name is William Kraus. I live in Edgewater, Maryland. I am opposed to it partly because I believe in large measure for Anne Arundel County it is not necessary. The reason I say that is I'm looking at a panel of faces, only one of whom I know from the previous council. Anne Arundel very effectively controls the amount of money that is spent in campaigns by the fact that you serve on term limits. If we put this system into place, it will cost several $1 million in funding, plus the cost of the staff. In large measure, the donations are not matched dollar for dollar. So individuals who are running for these positions are not more competitive than other individuals, nor are they able to keep up with those who swear off of the money. Additionally, some interesting studies that I didn't realize until I looked into this, Harvard University determined in a study published last fall that these kinds of programs actually tend to create more radical candidates because individuals will reach for more ideologically extreme donors in an attempt to meet the minimum requirements financially to qualify for the money. I think everybody on this panel agrees that political division in this country is epidemic enough without fostering it with public money. There are a lot of things this county does need the money for. An epidemic mental health crisis in our schools, police oversight and training, public health. We already have an effective means of controlling the people on the council. They vote out every 8 years, plus or minus. And I'm not looking at anybody here of substantial personal wealth. If you decide to vote for this, what I would beg you to do is give the voters complete information to make an intelligent decision. What does this kind of program cost? Where does the money come from? How effective is it in influencing the outcomes of elections? Is it really going to give Anne Arundel County something it doesn't already achieve through its existing system? If not, I would propose the council spend the money where it is more effectively used. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to remind everyone in the audience that masks are required to cover over your nose and mouth. Thank you very much. All right, next, let's see. Next on my list is Jesse I'm really trying to recreate your name, Noviello.
Thank you. All right, yeah, I'm Jesse Noviello, 126 Warwickshire Lane, Glen Burnie, Maryland, and I am both a citizen and an organizer for Progressive Maryland, who's been supportive of creating public financing here in Anne Arundel County. You know, as others have noted, this type of program is key to allowing folks from working class, low-income backgrounds to run for office. Our current system makes it far easier to run if you're connected already to larger donors, corporate PACs, other things like that. And creating a system of public financing would radically change who can run. You know, in my position, I frequently meet with candidates who are considering running for local or state office, both here and in other parts of the state. And one of the biggest barriers, particularly for the folks who are coming from working class backgrounds, regardless of their, politics, is that they don't think they can raise the funds to enter the race and be competitive. And in places where funds like this exist, any candidate who has widespread community support can raise those funds from their supporters right in the community by getting $5, $10, $25 donations, and that will greatly widen the pool of candidates we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on my list is Henrice Roberts.
My name is Henrice C. Roberts, and I live at 72 Clay Street here in Annapolis. And I live in a very criminal neighborhood. I've lived here about 10 years, and there has been about 5 deaths within a small T for me. So I am very interested in the criminality of laws. So I think that the caliber of elected officials cast determinations of law violations that can favor one citizen over the other citizen, which we know that very well, being African Americans and of slave descent. And justice is not applied fairly. Acts that determine crimes vary from each unique standard of law by different officials. Penalties of crime rendered with more serious penalties for one citizen than the other. Low-wealth candidates with small donations and with matched funds. And if some candidates win with the matched funds, there will be a more genuine outcome for society to become healthy, not swayed to severe criminal charges, worldly but restorative justice, and citizens becoming contributing members to society. So I'll be in New York City quite a bit, and I noticed lately a white man was stabbed to death by a black homeless man. A young white lady was stabbed to death in a furniture store, and a young black man just released from prison was raping a white woman in New York City with his hands around the neck. So there are penalties throughout society for the injustice that is inflicted. And also, I was in Brunswick in October. So therefore, we recognize the penalties of slavery and how they perpetuate violence in our society.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roberts. Next, we have Jean Cooper.
Madam Chair, members of the council, fellow citizens, good evening. I'm Jean Cooper. I reside at 8206 Swamp Rose Place in Laurel, Maryland, Councilmanic District 4. As you prepare to deliberate over the petitioner's request to amend the county charter, allowing a small donor or public campaign election fund, I wish to speak to establishing such a fund in Anne Arundel County as a benefit to voters. As someone who votes in every election, I want the assurance that the candidates I choose have mine and the best interests of my neighbors at heart, that the goals and objectives they espouse for seeking office remain unencumbered by the potential of catering to individuals or groups who wield financial influence. I and my neighbors recognize that there are costs to running election campaigns, but it is disconcerting when campaigns are overwhelmingly funded by sizable organizations, businesses, or individuals who can afford to offer thousands of dollars in financial support and give with the intent of influencing a candidate's potential decision to draft or support legislation that favors the goals and interests of the large donors, as opposed to meeting the needs of the county overall. This is not to say that every donor of significant amounts of money always has ulterior motives, but the appearance of sizable donations could be misperceived as having had influence over legislative decisions. When candidates spend a tremendous portion of their time searching for and raising funds, that detracts from their opportunities to meet with county residents who might contribute $5, $25, or $50 to a campaign or may not be able to contribute anything, but who want to meet the candidate, ask questions, and really get to know who the candidate is as a person, as well as what their views and plans might be to address issues affecting the county. I hope that you will consider that these factors in your deliberations, and I echo others I've heard with respect to making a campaign fund available to those who may not have access or know about funding resources, traditional funding resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cooper. All right, this panel is dismissed. I will call down the next 6 speakers. Michelle Cowell, Kurt Svensson, Abby Root, Connor Curran, Emily Scarr, and Ruth Rondberg. Ms. Cowell, you may begin.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Cowell. I live at 312 Bowline Court, Severna Park. Today, I am speaking as a member of WISE, a local group of over 500 women that came together in 2017 to work for the good of our communities. I'm testifying for the first time to ask the council to come together and support this nonpartisan resolution. WISE understands that for many candidates, accepting money from special interests is a means to an end and hard to refuse when everyone is doing it. However, we hope that you agree that a fair donor fund is a step towards improving the way our elections work and incentivizes candidates to focus on the individual voter. You may ask, is it even necessary at the local level? Well, WISE used the finance reporting system to characterize the campaign donations of local candidates in 2018. What we noticed immediately was how so many first-time candidates raised money from individual donors rather than special interests. But the overall amounts were small compared to the incumbents. Let me find my spot here. With name recognition and established contacts, the incumbents had larger accounts, but on a percentage basis, fewer individual donations. My thought at the time was that I would much rather support a candidate beholden to me, a constituent, but how could these new candidates ever compete with that much money? I held out hope that voters would look at campaign donations as a means to judge the candidate's commitment to individual constituents, and many voters did. But the financial gaps are just huge and hard to overcome. The bottom line is a fair election fund will incentivize candidates to forego special interest money and ultimately result in a government more accountable to us. In addition, it's been shown that a fair election fund encourages people to make those small donations in the first place. And citizens who donate are more likely to stay involved, volunteer for campaigns, and ultimately turn out to vote. I hope every leader on this dais will agree to support this, or at least support putting this question to the voters in December. Thank you all for what you do.
Thank you very much. Next is Kurt Svensson.
Kurt Svensson, Arnold, Maryland. I support the general idea of Resolution 122, but I take issue with the process of bypassing the Charter Revision Commission by hastily approving it tonight. I realize all that is technically required to get a local question added to the ballot is 5 votes of the County Council. I think that has been done far too frequently over the years, and without the comprehensive review such amendments to the county charter deserve, but that's another argument. What makes this resolution before you tonight so alarming is the fact that the 6th Decennial Charter Revision Commission is in the midst of its review right now. Why are they not being asked to review this idea in the context of their comprehensive study? You all provided the CRC with a list of 16 issues of particular interest to the legislative branch. They were discussed in detail at both their January 10th and 24th meetings. At their 24th meeting, the CRC provided the public an opportunity to suggest amendments, and leadership from the executive branch was invited to share with the CRC any specific issues of concern the administration might have. While the CAO and Director of Government Relations pledged to support the CRC, no specific issues were identified. I don't get that. I think the County Council should hold off on its vote on Resolution 122 and refer it to the Charter Revision Commission for their review in the context of their comprehensive study. There are a number of significant matters, not the least of which is the idea of having a commission calculate an annual amount necessary to support such a system and requiring that amount be included in the budget ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Svensson. Next is Abby Root.
Good evening. My name is Abby Root, 1336 Chickabee Way, Odenton, representing the League of Women Voters of Anne Arundel County. The League strongly urges you to vote in favor of Resolution 122. If passed, this resolution will give voters of Anne Arundel County an opportunity in the November election to decide if there should be a system of public campaign financing established for candidates for county executive and county council. Public financing of campaigns is good for democracy. Voluntary for candidates, this proposal seeks to level the playing field for candidates who may not have big donors. League of Women Voters Anne Arundel County support for public campaign financing is based on the conclusions of a national public campaign financing study conducted by the League of Women Voters of the United States. A public financing system requires candidates to raise money from a large number of small contributors rather than a few large donors. Improved methods of financing political campaigns work to ensure the public's right to know, combat corruption and undue influence, enable candidates to compete more equitably for public office, and promote citizen participation in the political process. Public campaign financing enables more candidates from diverse backgrounds to run for office. It amplifies the voices of regular people. It reduces the influence of big money on elections. Since the Maryland legislature in 2014 made it possible for counties to adopt the campaign finance system, 4 jurisdictions have done so: Howard, Montgomery, Prince George's, and Baltimore counties, as well as Baltimore City. Again, the League urges you to vote in favor of Resolution 122 to let the voters decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Root. Next is Emily Scarr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Emily Scarr. I'm the Director of Maryland PIRG here in support of Council Resolution 122. My address is 6303 Blackburn Court, Baltimore, Maryland. Maryland Public Interest Research Group is a nonprofit, nonpartisan public interest advocacy organization with grassroots members in Anne Arundel County and across the state. I want to thank County Executive Pittman for his work on this resolution. And after I've worked with counties and the General Assembly to establish and update their fair elections programs, I'm thrilled that Anne Arundel County may become the next community to enact this common sense bipartisan reform. As you can see in my written testimony, the vast majority of Americans across the political spectrum want to reduce the influence of large campaign donors in our elections. There is no doubt that our democracy is in a fragile state. Faith in government has dramatically declined, as has voter participation and civic engagement. Hyper-partisan politics have pushed our federal government to a stalemate. Voluntary small donor public financing of elections is not a silver bullet to solve our democracy's problems, but it's a good start. By creating an alternative to the traditional funding model for elections and encouraging more participation, We can build faith in our democracy, and Maryland is leading the way in doing so. In Montgomery County's first election using the system, Maryland Perk Foundation research found that candidates who qualified received nearly twice as many donations from Montgomery County residents than those not participating. And the average contribution was under $100 compared to over $1,000 for traditionally funded candidates. If modeled like similar programs throughout the state, we estimate the cost at a fraction of a % of the county budget. We invest in poll workers and election security to protect our democracy, and we need to invest in this to make sure that elections are funded by Anne Arundel County residents. Small donor public financing is better for voters, it's better for candidates, and it's better for our democracy. We thank you for your work on this issue and hope you vote to send this issue to the voters.
Thank you, Ms. Scar. And I realized right after I called your name that I had skipped over Mr. Curran. Mr. Curran, you are next.
No worries, Madam Chair. Good evening, Chairwoman Rodvian, Vice Chair Pruski, and members of the council. For the record, Connor Curran, District 3. Tonight, I'm encouraging the council to vote favorably for Resolution 122. Everyone on this dais knows what a privilege it is to serve and represent the citizens of our county. This legislation will help grow accessibility for citizens to run for office, which some may seem as a downside, but I see it as an opportunity to get more people involved within the democratic process. All of you know on this council the challenges of raising money for office. We want to be able to connect with our constituencies while being able to get our messages out. This will give more access for our peers to run for office and create change. That's what this body should be about, creating change for Anne Arundel County. However, this is bigger than just this body. This is about money becoming less of a factor when running for county office. Now, another step to help more people run for office is to pay council members a living wage. Some do not have the luxury of being able to have a full-time job, not paid like a full-time job. But that's a conversation for another day. Some may argue that this is a waste of our tax dollars. I would argue against that. Most citizens, I feel, would argue that they want a government that works for them and looks like them, and not one of wealth and privilege. We need to ensure that this body is one that is achievable to anyone, no matter their financial status, but on the basis of their values and ideas to improve our communities. I want to end on this moral guiding question. Do you want a county government that serves the true values of this county or not? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And next up is Ms. Ronberg.
I'm here, excuse me, I'm here mainly to represent senior citizens.
Could I ask you to state your name and address for the record before you get started? No worries, no worries.
Ruth Ronberg, 930 Astern Way, Annapolis, Maryland.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to be very short, other than, as I say, I was asked to do this, and as a senior citizen, I felt I've been working in politics all my life, one way or the other. And I think everybody, the League of Women Voters, the woman from Common Cause, the other people that have talked tonight have said it all. Let's be fair. Let's be. Our democracy needs so much help right now. And to me, what is more fair than letting the voters of Anne Arundel County decide on this issue? And that's really what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. All right, this panel is dismissed, and I have one final speaker on my list, Claudette Roan. If you are here, please come up to our table. Perhaps Ms. Roan is not here. If there is anyone else here in the audience who wishes to speak, please come up to the table and state your name and address for the record. All right, we're going to go from my left to right. State your name and address for the record.
John Wells, 11 Tucker Street, Annapolis. I'm providing this testimony representing the organization Get Money Out Maryland. This legislation is a big win for Anne Arundel County citizens, candidates, and legislators. Most implementations of this bill provide matching funding in something like an 8-to-1 ratio. This makes every donation far more valuable to both the candidate and the donor. When a $25 donation becomes $200, citizens will be more likely to give and to participate. Moderate income candidates who get $200 rather than $25 with every new small donor will be much more likely to run. This will be a tremendous positive influence to increase the diversity of campaign demographics. It should also help to attract moderate Republicans. Improved diversity will have these benefits. The high quality of the debate will improve as a broader spectrum of views is represented. Each side will be listening more carefully to the other because they both have stronger vested interest in the process. Public servants will be far less beholden to outside wealthy interests and can focus on making right decisions without worrying so much about future support from wealthy donors. Those who donated will be more likely to participate and to follow up and monitor their candidate's job performance. I witnessed a very specific example of the benefits of having a qualified Republican candidate included in the race during the recent Annapolis City Council election. Our community held a cordial debate for our ward with 100 or more people attending. Everyone was extremely impressed by the depth and understanding and clear thinking on key issues demonstrated by the Republican candidate, Scott Gibson. It was one of the best political debates I've ever been to at any level, and I've been to many. I'm pretty sure that the Democratic candidate who ended up winning also learned a great deal. Equally important, all of us learned important new things about the issues that directly affect our lives. This is what politics should be about.
Thank you very much. You can go ahead.
Hi, Sean Livingston, 110 Oakwood Road, Edgewater, Maryland. I'm glad the administration and Councilwoman Radvian have brought this resolution. A public financing option should be a bipartisan issue, and there are 3 reasons I believe you should vote yes in this resolution. 1, it expands the pool of people who can run for elected office. It supports people of both parties and of all economic backgrounds. Studies have shown that it especially has an impact on women and people of color. Public financing makes our public representation more true to who actually lives in our communities. 2, it gets the influence of big money out of politics. Another way to say that, it minimizes corruption. For example, if our candidates can't accept more than $250 from any organization or person, then they will not feel obligated to hold their interests above the interests of the general public. Number 3, it engages the public to get involved by equalizing the value of small donations. Giving $10 to a campaign that isn't using a public financing system isn't going to go very far. But giving $10 to a campaign knowing it's going to be matched 7x, suddenly your contribution has a meaningful and outsized impact. Suddenly your voice will be heard. As a candidate for County Council in District 7, a program like this would have been meaningful for me. I spent my professional life building up my community and raising a family while working at a school and a church. I don't have thousands of dollars to loan my campaign or wealthy benefactors to bankroll it. So far, I've depended on small donations from my community to fund this campaign, but I know to stay competitive, I'm going to have to seek larger contributions. I hope in the future, others like me, by using public financing option, will be able to collect donations solely from the people of their communities. By voting yes on this resolution, you'll be taking one step towards giving all the people of our districts an equal stake in our electoral process and giving our constituents a chance to decide. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dave Morrisberger, District 7. I'm here in opposition of the public financing. The first thing is the county money must be used to fund the public financing. That money is going to come from current or new programs, or it's going to be increased revenue, which means taxes. I've heard a lot of people here talk about the need for this, but who's willing to cut a program that they also support in order to support public financing? Are they supporting a tax increase in order to fund this? The money is protected speech. This puts a limit on speech by favoring small versus large donations. It's just one more example of demonizing those that work hard and create wells and want to use their wells to invest in a candidate that has their ideas. And like the fellow next to me talked about money is corruption. I ask all 7 of you, do you change your vote as a function of how much money a person gave to your campaign? Is corruption really exist in the county council, at the county executive, where you really do provide favors for your highest donators? I don't think so. I got to meet a lot of you, and I do not believe that. And I don't believe Stuart Pittman, the county executive, does that. But to say big money is corruption, I think just creates demonization and the separation that's killing our society and killing our form of government. What I do like, what I heard tonight, was this, go back to the Charter Commission. I'll give them that objective. Let them have the public testimonies. Let them come up with the ideas for how to best handle this case of financing the public.
Thank you very much. All right, this panel is dismissed. And last call for anyone who would like to speak on this resolution. All right, seeing no additional movement in the audience, the public hearing on resolution number 1-22 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 1-22.
Resolution number 122, resolution proposing an amendment to the Charter of Anne Arundel County to require the establishment of a system of public campaign financing for candidates for county executive and county council.
Are there any questions from my colleagues? Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Hare, District 7. Mr. Barron, I think this is probably a question for you, but we heard this from a couple of folks during public testimony. Why wasn't this sent to the Charter Review Commission for their evaluation and discussion?
Thank you for the question, Pete Barron. There are multiple ways that issues can show up on the ballot. This council sent a number of questions to the voters in the last election in 2020. The county executive does not actually send issues to the Charter Review Commission. The council does. This is an issue that county executive feels strongly should move forward. So, I mean, the Charter Review Commission can look at it but the way to do it is the way we're bringing it forward now. Both ways work. I mean, I think we felt this was an important issue and we brought it forward.
Okay, but you didn't consider asking the Charter Review Commission to look at it?
No.
Okay.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda Fiedler, District 5. So I'm going to piggyback on that question. So understand that there are different ways to bring a charter revision before council voters, but there's nothing that prohibits the county executive from reaching out to any member of the council to request that the Charter Revision Commission review such an important issue, especially when we're talking about a commission that only comes together once every 10 years.
I'll remind the council, the Charter Review Commission does not actually put issues on the ballot. The council does. You send issues. So this would still need to come before this body had the Charter Review Commission done this. We felt this was an important issue and brought it forward.
Understood, but what I'm asking is, was there anything, any section of our code that would prohibit the administration from reaching out to any council member prior to the resolution that gave a list of topics that the Charter Revision Commission would discuss and consider in public testimony? Is there any section of our code that would have prevented the administration from asking a council member to bring that question forward in the resolution?
I'm not sure I understand the point of the question.
I'm asking if the administration could have asked a member of the council to include this in the resolution of questions for the Charter Revision Commission to consider.
A council member could have also included it. A citizen could have reached out. The county executive could have. I'm still not following the issue. Is the issue that we brought the resolution forward, or that the Charter Review Commission wasn't charged with looking at this issue?
I believe what you just said was anybody could have, and you included the administration. So that's what I'm trying to understand. Could you have requested via a council member that the Charter Revision Commission discuss and review this matter? And it sounds like you confirmed that yes, the administration could have, chose not to, but could have.
Resolution 1-22 is in front of you.
All right, let's move on. Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nathan Volkey, District 3. This question is for Mr. Demarinis. Thank you for being here from the state, sir. I know your name from many things state-related, so we get all that. I'm assuming you have some familiarity with the funding amounts in different jurisdictions that have been put toward these systems. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what Montgomery County, Howard, because I know those two have systems currently, and then you indicated Prince George's and Baltimore County, I think we're looking at it, doesn't sound like they've done it yet. Has Baltimore City done anything yet?
No.
Okay, and then obviously we're the 6th on that list. So really, it seems like there's 2 who have done it so far. How much are they allocating to these?
Montgomery, the first time it was, the first year of the program, Montgomery budgeted $11 million, of which I believe between 6 to 7 was spent on it. Howard right now, I think budgeted, $5 million or $6 million for it, of which now only 2 candidates have met the qualifications, and it doesn't look like there's going to be more. There's probably an additional, in the entire program in Howard County, there are 4 candidates that have filed a notice of intent. 2 have qualified. 1 has not sought certification yet. So you're looking at possibly 3 to maybe 1 more candidate join in. So at most there, it's going to be a couple of $1 million. And that's if everyone kind of maxes out, but most likely it'll be like maybe a little bit over $1 million or so.
Councilman Volkey, if I might add, I think it's important when we're thinking about how much this will cost to look at the structure of each individual county. In Montgomery County, they do have council members at large, which adds to the cost. We do not have that here.
Yep. May I ask a quick follow-up, Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, Mr. Demarinis, if you can't answer this, that's fair, and if it's too speculative, tell me that too, because this isn't a gotcha question.
Okay.
But we're about in the middle of Howard and Montgomery in terms of population. Montgomery's about 1 million. Howard is, I think, about 300,000. We're at 6, so we're probably a little closer to Howard, not quite at Montgomery. If Montgomery's at 11 and Howard's at 5, a county our size, our council, our county executive, et cetera, is $8 million, somewhere in that range, a realistic number to fund a system like this? I'm just trying to get a real sense of what the number would be if this goes to the voters, because I think part of the problem for me is, hey, we passed this, great, but what's the price tag? We don't know. So I'm trying to figure out what other jurisdictions are doing and how they sort of allocated their number or how they reached that threshold.
So I would say that, one, it is a little speculative, but
Okay.
also the idea is the number of offices that are available, right? And it's actually the program and the dollar amounts that you want to have for public contributions, right? So Montgomery, for county executive, is there is more money than Howard. So Howard is, I think, $750,000. Montgomery is $1.5 million for county executive. County council at large seat is like $250,000 per election. So that's $500,000 right there for just at large. Whereas at district level is much smaller threshold and less money that would be allocated. So you don't have an at large seat here. Yeah. You just have county executive that is countywide. Additionally, as you can see, the first year of Montgomery, it was over 40 candidates that actually wanted to qualify and participate in there, and so there was a major push. You had a lot more open seats, so these are all kind of factors in there. So I think that you would be more on the Howard type of model in the cost and the structure there. So it wouldn't be as expensive as 8 million or so, because even with Montgomery at its peak in 18, they only spent 6. So it would be, I would have to say it would be probably under that amount if you budgeted, you know.
Thank you, helpful.
And if I may, I'll editorialize significantly under that.
I'm going to jump in and ask a question here. Just this is going back to the idea that we could have had the Charter Review Commission look at this. What is the deadline for charter amendments to be submitted?
I'll ask Office of Law, but I think it is end of July, early August.
Yeah, Ms. Corby probably knows the exact date, but that's the time frame generally.
Okay, and the time frame for the Charter Review Commission to complete their work?
I think there's a goal of them doing an interim report and I don't want to speak for them. Ms. Corby might know offhand. Isn't the interim report in the spring?
The resolution that the 5021 asked for a report on the charter, I think by the end of March.
Okay. So given the timeline, granted, if this resolution did not pass, then advocates that wanted to be able to still get this on the ballot, because, obviously the county executive can advocate for this, but charter amendments can come from a lot of different sources. They can come from the council, they can come from the county executive by resolution, they can come from the citizens. So it'd be really cutting into the citizens' time if this resolution here did not pass.
I would agree with that, and what I would also add, Madam Chair, is the Charter Review Commission issues a report. This council then has to take up any potential changes. So that's another step in the process.
So even if their work is done in the spring, I guess March timeframe, that still puts us pretty close to, that would make it very difficult for anyone else who wanted to raise this issue to bring it forward.
Indeed, and I believe this resolution was introduced in January 3rd, so it's already been over a month.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Hare, District 7. Mr. Demarinis, this may be a question for you. We heard from a few folks during public testimony about kind of eliminating big money from campaigns, but my understanding of the way this works is that it's an opt-in or an opt-out. So anyone running for a campaign isn't limited to a $25 donation from individual folks or whatnot. You can choose to use this, or you can say no. So I guess I don't see that as kind of eliminating any kind of big money, so to speak. It just, some people can use this and some people can't. Is that accurate?
I guess, it is a voluntary program.
Okay.
And by opting into the program, you would, I guess the thing is, I can't really answer how Anne Arundel County will do it specifically, because this is not a bill, this is just a resolution to put it up there. But the idea is, yes, it is a program so that candidates do not have to seek large corporation dollars or PAC dollars or from big donors, that they can go and get a $25 contribution from a person, and that then it would be matched so that they would be more competitive in the election against a traditionally financed candidate. So that's where the idea of getting big money out of politics is that by opting into this program, they voluntarily put limits on how much they will raise and from whom they would raise it from. And then that would be up to the council as to defining the program in and of itself. So, most likely in the 2 counties right now and in the state level, the maximum contribution is $250 from an individual, of which it's tiered so that the first $50 is matched at a higher rate than the next 50, then finally, like from about 100 to 150 is usually matched like 2 to 1 in that ratio. And then the last 50 is usually not matched at all. It's zero matched at that point there. So, but each program is different, and Prince George's is different from Howard, and Howard's different from Montgomery right now. So, but you would never, if a person doesn't opt in, then you would do the traditional, which is regulated by the state of Maine, and you can get up to $6,000, and that's still very legal and very, acceptable.
So if I may, Councilwoman, I think you hear a lot of rhetoric on any side of a issue. What the goal of Resolution 122 in a system like this is for the people that elect to do it. In exchange for accepting public match, the public is given an assurance, and they're prohibited from taking those kinds of dollars. So to voters that matters to can reflect on who's funding. And so I think that's where people are using those words. But from where the administration sits on this is about restoring trust in the system and creating a system that opens opportunity for folks who might not have access to large donors, a big donor base, personal wealth, or such things.
May I ask a brief follow-up?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So my understanding, right, and maybe this is for Ms. Klausmeyer, but given the Supreme Court's rulings on kind of campaign contributions and free speech, we cannot prohibit campaign contributions from folks, right?
Right. So that's why that's why this works, right? Okay. In a sense that because the government is like proposing money or giving money to candidates for them voluntarily. That's why it's the voluntarily program. So by taking the restrictions that you've applied to it, then they're accepting those rules. But outside of that, you cannot restrict, I would say, anybody in the normal traditional sense of campaign finance, that realm there, that it has to meet that constitutional scrutiny, which is then at the state and the General Assembly passing those laws.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Damaris, for being here to answer our questions. You answered one of mine, which is each county, as their voters have opted to have their local government set up a system, they then created the thresholds within their own programs, and then voted to fund those in however they deem is appropriate for their individual county. I believe that's what you answered a minute ago. So thank you for that. That was one of my questions. I just have a comment, and it's in reference to our Charter Review Commission. Anne Arundel County convenes a Charter Review Commission once a decade to look at our charter. Is it modern? Is it relevant to how we operate now? Does it need to be tweaked and changed? In between those decades, we as a council send charter amendments to the ballot outside of a Charter Review Commission. So I feel like we're having this conversation tonight. Whether the Charter Review Commission looked at it or not is absolutely irrelevant. We sent a charter amendment to the ballot last meeting, I believe, with a unanimous vote that did not go before the Charter Review Commission. So people came out tonight to give their testimony. Mr. Damaris is here. This is an opportunity to put this before the Anne Arundel County voters. I honestly don't know if this is something the Anne Arundel County voters are interested in, but I don't know that sending it to the Charter Review Commission changes our action tonight. We're still here. It's still going to be proposed, so I think we should take this time to make this vote tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nathan Volkey, District 3. I agree with some of the sentiments that Councilwoman Pickard just expressed, which is I think we should look at this and vote on it tonight. I don't know that kicking it to the Charter Revision Commission makes perfect sense. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I'm trying to understand the scope of the problem, right? So I'm looking at this council and I'm looking at the county executive. I did some quick numbers about what different people up here raised. So, for instance, District 1, my colleague from District 1 was outspent 8-1 almost, and yet she won a seat on the council. Ms. Rodvian, I believe, took a pledge that she was only going to take money from small dollar donors, and she was successful in her election. The county executive, I believe, was outspent 3-1 in his race in 2018, and yet still won that election. And interestingly, now, in his latest report, he raised more money in the last reporting cycle than any of the people challenging him. He raised over $400,000. The next closest person was Councilwoman Hare at $320,000, $314,000, somewhere around there. So it's interesting to me because I'm trying to understand the scope of the problem when we're talking about how people who don't have means or who have limited resources aren't able to compete, but yet we've seen consistently up here that some of my colleagues have been able to win elections with, what are really David and Goliath odds, but yet they've worked hard and they've had a message that clearly resonates with their voters, and they've been able to win the election. So I think in looking at some of these numbers, that's where I'm trying to understand the problem. I'm trying to understand what the scope is when we are seeing people still winning seats up here on this body, and we have this problem of too much money in campaign world. The other thing that I did want to ask Mr. Demarinis, because he's here, I think we have an excellent campaign reporting system. One of the things I've heard from a lot of people is there's no transparency in politics. I think, frankly, we have one of the most transparent systems you'll find in any state if you look around, and I think the Board of Elections should be particularly proud of it. You can literally go on there and look up donors, you can look up candidates, you can look up their reports, you can see everything in there. And last time I checked, I think every dollar that comes into the system has to be accounted for, whether it is spent or whether it is received. So if you want to see what's going on in campaigns and politics and who gives us money and how we spend it, it's all right out there. So I think with that, I'm just trying to understand the problem, and I've yet to fully hear the why, if that makes sense, from some of the folks who have testified and then some of the discussion that we've had this evening. So that's where I'm struggling.
Councilman Volkey, I'll take a stab at the why. I think we can look at other jurisdictions and their experience with this. And I will say, having run campaigns myself, including one you referenced,
Was that the 3-1?
let's not worry about that. The point that you're making, candidates matter, campaigns matter, money also matters, and the ability to get your message out matters. And you've referenced people who are up here. I think what folks are talking about is the folks who might not have the ability to do the work to get here because they don't have the donor network even to raise a couple of grand, right? So what the problem we're trying to tackle, what this system has done in other jurisdictions, it has helped restore trust in the process. It has helped open the playing field to a very exclusive club, people who can afford to run for election. And it's provided an ability for folks who might not otherwise be well connected but have a large personal network or personally charismatic, because I think the one thing that any system like this still relies on is the candidate to get matches, right? So if you're going to get and be successful in a public financing system, you still need to go out and talk to a lot of people. You still need to talk to a lot of people to support you. But now, as Mr. Demaritis talked about how it worked in other jurisdictions, your first $50, right, is all of a sudden what a, rubber chicken dinner at a fancy, fundraiser of $250 a plate, right? But now somebody who has $50 has the same ability to help their candidate. So I think If that's trying to answer your question, because I think you're right, there's a number of people here who have shown that, yeah, the person with the most money doesn't always win. And that's good. That says a lot of good things about the voters of Anne Arundel County, that the campaigns matter, that the candidates matter. But what this system will do is provide a voluntary option for those who want to and level the playing field a bit. So we hope you'll support it tonight.
Ms. Lacy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we've had an excellent discussion. I want to sum up 3 points. First, it takes money to make money. It's a good expression that we all know. Everybody's got to put a little bit of skin in the game, but some of us have more to be able to put in than others. And so sometimes you may not even have enough to get started. It doesn't make you a person who wouldn't be a great candidate that people would support, but you have to start somewhere. So the second point is that in the public finance system, just the idea of it, not getting into the specifics of how it would actually work, which will be decided later if the voters vote for having such a system, but it spreads the buy-in so that more people can play. It's both more candidates and also more citizen participation. You literally make democracy more accessible to the common man, to the ordinary person who says, why should I even give you $5 because my $5 does, virtually nothing. What does that buy me? Maybe 10 postcards. Great, okay, I've sold that $5 to people, and it would be a lot easier if I could say, no, your $5 becomes $25, okay? That force multiplier is part of what will actually restore people's faith in our democracy. The candidates will still have to go out and work for it, but the safeguards would then be built into the system, and there are basic limitations on the spending that are in the proposed charter amendment, which I think are reasonable. I mean, if the county's in a bad financial position, then yeah, it doesn't make sense to require us to shunt money over to a campaign finance fund. But we have to assume that reasonable people are going to be in charge. Reasonable, smart people, well-informed people, I hope, and that they are going to attempt to make good decisions. And if we don't already think that about the future, I don't know why any of us are even here tonight. Let's all go to the bar, okay? It doesn't make sense. My third point is this, as to when charter amendments can be made. I think it's kind of a funny point to say that we shouldn't be considering this charter amendment resolution because we currently have a charter revision commission impaneled, which, as has been said, only occurs once a decade. That provision of the charter, as far as I can tell, has not changed since we adopted the charter in the mid-1960s. So and those who framed the charter, who we have generally held in high regard in prior debates on this council, they didn't feel the need to limit the county council as to when they could introduce charter amendment resolutions, and there was no limitation on when the county executive could do it. So this county has been operating for some 60 years almost without having those limitations. I think if this body felt strongly that neither the council nor the county executive should put in charter amendment resolutions while there is a charter revision commission impaneled, you can ask the commission, draft a resolution, and bring it before us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Pickard.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just make a brief counterpoint to my colleague from District 3's comments. I'm not sure that the 7 of us are necessarily the best example of why we don't need public financing. So maybe that's a little vague, but I think that the residents of Anne Arundel County should decide this issue, and anecdotal evidence about who won an election is irrelevant to the number of citizens in our county that may really like to take the shot and don't have the personal wealth or even the time to build those $251,000, or access to PAC dollars, which while they're reported on our campaign finance reports, we don't really know who funds those. So while there's transparency, there's not total transparency in where money comes from for candidates. I would just disagree with the defining the problem in that way. Had to say it.
Surprised. Thank you, Ms. Pickard. I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to start and end with the same idea. As the whole point of tonight's vote is to allow this idea to go before the voters of Anne Arundel County. We can debate amongst ourselves whether or not we like the idea of publicly financed campaigns, but the whole point of tonight's vote is not to decide that question, but to decide whether the voters should even have the opportunity to decide that question. And I think we need to keep that at the forefront. We should always give our voters the opportunity to decide a question when that is a possibility, especially for something like a charter amendment. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of why I think this is a good idea. I'm going to just be blunt and look to my left and look to my right and see we are not a diverse body here. We are 7 people. We are overrepresented in the number of women on this body, which I have a little bit of pride in, but we're white. We have 7 white members, and that is not a reflection of our county. Obviously I don't know everyone's personal details here, but I know enough to know that we're all reasonably middle class, upper middle class, upper class, also not a reflection of our county. And so to have a system that would allow, that would bring more people of different backgrounds who experience our county in a different way is going to bring better ideas. Because I will tell you for certain, without a doubt, that residents who live, I don't want to pick, you pick, in one part of the county are going to experience the county in a very different way than people who live and grow up and experience the county from their point of view. And if we are constantly bringing one particular point of view that's represented by middle to upper class Caucasian people, we're not representing, we're going to be missing out on good solutions. We're going to be missing out on ideas. And of course, we all 7 of us, I truly believe, go out and try to hear from our constituents. But it's one thing to be empathetic and to hear from your constituents, and it's another thing to walk in your own shoes. And we don't have the opportunity to walk in other people's shoes. And so that is, again, why I think this is a really excellent way to create a body that's more reflective of the county we represent. My last point, which is the point I started with, this isn't about what we 7 council members think. This is about, should we give the vote to the voters? And absolutely, whenever we have the opportunity, we should let the voters decide. That's exactly what our procedures provide with respect to charter amendments. Let the voters decide. They can, we've got plenty of smart people who can make good decisions about the county that they want. And so I think it's really up to us to say, let the voters decide. And then we can go and advocate the points, amongst our voters and say, hey, did you think about this? Did you think about this? Did you think about this? But our choice tonight is about whether or not we are going to trust our voters with the future of our county. And if we can't do that, what can we trust our voter? I mean, what are we doing here? We're supposed to be an interactive representative government. Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Hare, District 7. I think this is my last question. In giving anything to the voters to look at, I do believe that full information is kind of necessary. And there was a little bit of public testimony about this as well. I don't see that full information is necessarily being given. We've talked tonight about $5 million, $11 million, various costs, things like that. And I don't see where the resolution lets the voter know, hey, by the way, if you vote for this, just so you know, this is the fiscal impact to the county. And I guess my question is, do you have any response to that or any reaction to that?
Pete Barron with the administration. I think it's a fair question what the cost will be. And I think it's important to reiterate again that this resolution says, do you want a system? And sets up a procedure to have that system put into place. In every county that it's been done like that. The voters approve, say we want a system, and then the governing body of that county, usually through a commission or something, comes up with a proposal, passes that proposal, and that's where the direct fiscal impact is budgeted for or fully estimated. I think Madam Auditor's blue letter talks a little bit about the cost. I think this administration has been very transparent at this will have a cost. We estimate that the cost will be less than Montgomery County, but no, until we decide what offices are eligible, until we decide what levels of match are applied to the program, would determine and then how many people participate in any given election tells us how much it will actually cost. And as Mr. DeMarinis noted, Montgomery County over budgeted for theirs, and they only spent about half of what they budgeted for because of the level of participation. So I think we can say it will cost money. I don't think, we can say it'll cost $3,250,000, right? It'll cost a significant amount of money, but what you get in our opinion is better government and a more representative government, and that has value too.
Okay, and you don't see a problem with saying to someone, do you want this system, but I have no idea what it's going to cost you?
I don't think I said we have no idea what it's going to cost you.
Well, there is no numbers, there's no brackets even for anyone to consider when they're voting on it.
I think there's some reasonable estimates that we can come to, and I think we've given them. And I think Madam Auditor's blue letter talks about comparisons to other systems and what ours would be.
Okay. I think Ms. Fiedler was next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda Fiedler, District 5. Mr. Barron, you just mentioned something that triggered a memory from a recent state legislative meeting. You said that we don't know what offices are eligible, and that will be determined if this goes to the voters pass it, comes to the council to stand up the system. Mm-hmm. In the bill right now, under current state code, what are the eligible offices?
County executive and county council.
Okay.
There's a bill in front of the General Assembly that would expand that eligibility, but if it's a delegate from Howard County's bill, I believe, maybe Mr. DeMarinis knows more, but I'm pretty sure that for other offices to be eligible under that bill, which hasn't passed and doesn't have a Senate cross-file, it would, the county would have to have that system in place for one cycle, and then it would be, counties could elect to add clerks of court, board of educations, and other offices like that. But current state law only authorizes executive and council.
Yes. It's the state enabling legislation just for the county council and county executive for Anne Arundel County.
Thank you. Madam Chair, may I ask one follow-up to that?
Yes.
If down the road, the bill passes in both houses, understanding it's down the road, would there have to be another charter revision in order to add those additional races? Or would that be something that the council would have the purview to do because the system is in place through this potential charter?
We would be authorizing this chart, if 122 passes tonight, the voters approve, we should ask Office of Law, but we are saying for the county executive and county council. So I think we would either have, I think the question would be, would the state enabling be enough, or would we have to go to another charter question. And I think we would have to go to another charter question.
Yeah, because you say it specifically that it's only for the 7 and the county exec. So it's in the charter.
Okay.
It's A2. A22.
And
A2 double I, sorry.
And Ms. Blair Klausmeyer nodded her head affirmatively.
Yes.
I always appreciate having folks that have the applicable legal references at the tip of their tongue. It's very wonderful. Ms. Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's my understanding, if this body votes with a supermajority of 5 to pass this charter amendment on to the voters, it'll be on the ballot in November 2022. If it is then approved by the voters of Anne Arundel County that they would like the county council to set up a public campaign finance system, then that is when we start from square one with the debate about what thresholds look like, what matching dollars look like for each county council race and the county executive. So the budgeting component is then still in the hands of this body to go through that public scrutiny like we do everything else. Correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no additional lights on from my colleagues, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on resolution. Actually, have you read the title?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on resolution number 1-22.
Ms. Fiedler.
Nay.
Ms. Hare.
Nay.
Ms. Lacy.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Nay.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Resolution number 121 has been defeated.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the title of Bill number 103-21 as amended.
Bill number 10321, an ordinance concerning zoning, commercial districts, gunsmiths, and ammunition sales facilities.
Ms. Fiedler, it looks like it's you right now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda Fiedler, District 5. So I won't dig too much into this. We've discussed this bill at several meetings. The bill has been amended several times and essentially stands before the council as allowing.
Ms. Fiedler, I'm sorry to interrupt. I need to ask everyone in the audience to please be very quiet as our meeting does need to continue as you're leaving. So thank you very much. Go ahead, Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the bill stands before the council right now, it says that if you have an approved indoor gun range in a C3, you may also have a gunsmith and have ammunition sales. We did clarify what the role of a gunsmith is, and I think it is important to note for safety reasons, I think that any indoor range should have a on-premise gunsmith. So I do ask for my colleagues' support this evening.
Mr. Barron, you may respond if you like.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Joining me at the table is Ms. Lynn Miller from OPZ, Ms. Lori Rhodes, our Deputy CAO for Land Use, and Ms. Kelly Kenny, who I'm told has all the 21 bills tonight. I think this, as Councilwoman Fiedler noted, this bill has been discussed several times. I want to clarify one question just for the record, and maybe Office of Law can do this or the sponsor. Ms. Fiedler, when you state that the gunsmith facility would need to be at the range, already existing range, I read the bill, and I probably should ask this question of Office of Law before I got to the table, but it's been a busy week. The as I read the bill only requires them to be affiliated with them. Do they have to be located on the same premises, or could this create a new facility that is affiliated with another one but is off-site?
From my understanding, the way that this was drafted, it was specifically to address that issue, that it cannot be at another site. It has to be under same ownership, address, location as the approved indoor range.
And that's what I was getting at. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, understood.
Kelly County Supervising County Attorney, I would interpret it that way as well.
All right, are there any questions from the council before we go forward? All right, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 103-21 as amended. And pardon me while I get my papers unstuck. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
Yes, Madam Chair, we did receive one submission to the online testimony tool. It went to the entire council. It has been added to the record. It's included in the summary that is posted online.
Thank you. We will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 103-21 as amended. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. There was no one who signed up in advance to testify on this bill, but if there is anyone in the room who wishes to testify, you may come down and have 2 minutes to share your thoughts. All right, seeing no movement towards the table, Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 103-21 as amended.
Bill number 103-21, an ordinance concerning zoning, commercial districts, gunsmiths, and ammunition sales facilities.
Is there any further discussion? I'm just going to make a quick point because I've had some communications with constituents where I've changed my position from, what I had originally conveyed. And it really comes with having a better understanding of what exactly a gunsmith does under this bill. I believe that my district in general, the majority of folks in my district are not looking for any additional guns. We've had even one is too many gun homicides, or gun suicides in the county is too many, in my opinion. And so I don't believe my constituents are looking to expand gun sales in District 6. However, when we're talking about a shooting range or a firing, I'm not using the correct terminology, but when we're talking about a practice range, the idea that you have someone there that is able to provide maintenance and repair for the firearms that people are using seems like not only a reasonable idea, seems like a wise idea. So I've come full circle on this bill, and I just wanted to explain my vote before I cast it. So is there any additional discussion? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 103-21.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacey.
Nay.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. Bill number 103-21 has passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the title of Bill number 104-21 as amended.
Bill number 104-21, an ordinance concerning zoning, school bus facilities.
Ms. Fiedler, again, this is your bill. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda Fiedler, District 5. So this bill came out of a resident of, a business owner of District 5 who is interested in expanding his company. However, if you look at the code, there is no school bus facility identified in the use chart. So it's a bit difficult at this stage in the code to insert a use that is clearly prevalent within the county. So we've done a few amendments, and I appreciate my colleagues in the administration working with me on this bill. As the bill stands before the council right now, school bus facilities under a conditional use could be located in C3, would be permitted in C4, and permitted in W2 and W3, the higher intensified industrial uses. I know there's been some questions on conditional use in C3. Just to give an idea of what is already permitted by right in C3, miniature golf courses, golf range, bowling alleys, BMX bikes, skateboards, and rollerblade parks, conference centers, grocery stores, hospitals, nightclubs, parking garages, and lots. So I just think this bill has been a work and a big lift to try to accommodate use that we could not operate our school system without. And I ask for my colleagues' support this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Barron, if the admin would like to respond.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. Sticking with me is the same team from the previous bill. Ms. Rhodes from our DCAO for land use, Ms. Miller from OPZ, and Ms. Kenny from law. I think this bill had been amended less than the last bill, but it's still gone through a couple of meetings and work sessions. As introduced, the administration had some very serious concerns with the bill. It's come down a lot. I think recognizing the sponsors' attempts to make this bill a little to address the concerns that were raised by OPZ, specifically as it related to small business districts and other areas where this use would not have been appropriate. I will note just one thing, Councilwoman Fiedler, that the comment related to we need these for our school systems to get kids to school. Completely agree. However, the current situation is not a bus problem. We have the buses. It's a driver problem. So the administration is probably wouldn't have been the bill we would have brought forward, but we can live with it.
Thank you, and I see a few lights from my colleagues. Ms. Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm still having, I voiced my concerns about some of the details in this bill at the work session, at the previous council meeting when it's been amended. I'm still having a little heartburn over C3. Even with conditional use, we're still allowing an industrial use in C3 on a local road if the local road has vehicular access to an arterial road. So we're still looking from my community's perspective at bringing an industrial use into very residential areas. It is conditional, so they have to meet a couple extra thresholds beyond what a permitted use would be, but there's no nod to a community meeting or the public even being aware that a C3 parcel around the corner could now be home to a fleet of buses coming in and out with repair, paint, things like that. I'm still having a little concern with that. I think industrial uses should be in industrial zoned areas. And I have many, many anecdotal stories in District 2 where communities have been changed forever based on bills this county council has passed over the decades that do similar things. And I just can't get there tonight. So that's my statement.
I think, did you want to respond?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Yep, and Ms. Pickard, I certainly can appreciate that. That is the reason for two of the conditions to only allow minor repairs indoors or outdoors, but any significant body work engine reconditioning, any of the industrial activities or some activities that could be considered industrial in nature are only allowed indoors as part of the condition. So I hope that answers your question, but understand where you are this evening.
Mr. Pruski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to acknowledge I had a few constituents reach out, particularly about the Odenton Town Center. We have a master plan review that will be occurring, and I just want to go as a matter of record, regardless of this bill, that they had some concerns about the bus lot. There are C3 properties in that area that I will go on record that I will supporting that we will make sure that's not included in the Odenton master plan as we get to that point. So I just want to make that clear again, because some folks were asking when they were looking at the bill about what sites would be included in some of the conditions. So thank you.
And I want to just ask a question of the sponsor. If I recall, there's actually a very small number of parcels around the county that would actually even fit the description required. Am I correctly recalling that?
That conversation, thank you, Madam Chair, Amanda Fiedler, District 5. That conversation was more related to the small business parcels,
Okay.
which have been removed.
Okay, that's right. Thank
yes.
you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, seeing no additional lights at this time, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 104-21 as amended. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
No, Madam Chair, we did not receive any testimony.
All right, we will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 104-21 as amended. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Again, there was no one who signed up in advance. However, if anyone in the audience would like to speak about Bill number 104-21, you may come down to our table now. Seeing no movement in the audience, the public hearing on Bill number 104-21 as amended is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 104-21 as amended.
Bill number 104-21, an ordinance concerning zoning school bus facilities.
Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 104-21.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Nay.
Ms. Pickard.
No.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
5 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. Bill number 104-21 is passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the title of Bill number 114-21 as amended.
Bill number 114-21, an ordinance concerning public works, utilities, charges and assessments, late penalties.
This is an admin bill. Mr. Barron, you have the floor.
Yep, I'm going to scooch over because I got a few people coming. We have Ms. Henry and Ms. Clooney from DPW, Ms. McQuaid and Ms. Penley from Finance, and because this bill ends in -21, Ms. Kenny. So we discussed this bill at the work session and at the previous council meeting. Just to refresh everybody's recollections, 114-21 grants the controller the authority to waive late fees on utility bills in the case of widespread payment delays as a result of a state of emergency, billing error, postal service delays, or other major event outside the customer's control. Under our current code language, a late fee of 10% is imposed once the due date is passed. The controller may currently waive this fee twice a year upon the customer's request. This bill gives the controller more flexibility to waive the fee in these types of circumstances that are outside of the customer's control. As you'll see in the blue letter, we're codifying in this bill several important practices, but we do not currently have the flexibility to do everything that this bill allows, and we appreciate your support to grant this flexibility. And recall at the last meeting, we amended the bill to clarify that when the county screws up, we have to waive the fee. So with those changes in force, we hope you'll pass the bill tonight, and the illustrious team here is happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from my colleagues? Seeing no red lights, I feel bad not asking questions of this wonderful team here. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 114-21 as amended. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
No, Madam Chair, we did not receive any submissions of testimony.
Then we will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 114-21 as amended. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Once again, we had no one signed up ahead of time, but if there is anyone in the audience who wishes to testify, seeing no movement in the audience, the public hearing on Bill number 114-21 as amended is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 114-21 as amended.
Bill number 114-21, an ordinance concerning public works, utilities, charges and assessments, late penalties. No further discussion. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 114-21 as amended. Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 114-21 is passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the title of Bill number 115-21 as amended.
Bill number 115-21, an ordinance concerning finance, taxation, and budget, real and personal property taxes, late interest, and penalties.
Thank you. Again, this is an admin bill. Mr. Barron, you have the floor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Same bill as 114, just with property taxes instead of utilities. As you saw, our team from DPW got excused. It's now just finance, law, and little old me. Just to remind, same bill, same rules around errors, same amendment from last meeting. This bill deals with property tax payments, and when they're late, being able to waive the fees. Under the current code, once a payment is late on your property taxes, late interest and penalties are assessed amounting to 1% each month, and the controller has no discretion to waive those fees. So this would give us the flexibility in property tax situations where it's not the payer's fault that it's late. So please pass the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Oh, I was about to say there's no questions. Mr. Volkey.
Almost, Madam Chair. Nathan Volkey, District 3. How is this going to impact tax sales? So to the extent that you have people who don't pay and then it moves forward, is it going to have any impact whatsoever? I'm just curious if that would come into play.
I don't see it having any, Karen McQuaid, Office of Finance. I don't see it having really any impact on tax sales. I mean, if there's a problem such as, mailing or whatever, the citizen shouldn't have been charged anyway, so we would just be correcting something that shouldn't have happened in the meantime.
Okay, so if somebody doesn't pay their property taxes, normally that property would end up going to tax sale at some point. What is it, like 18 months or something after they didn't pay? It's 12 or 18. I know there's a time limit there. What you're saying is that with the late interest and penalties, you would either fix this before then, or by the time you get to the tax sale,
Absolutely.
It's so delinquent that this isn't the same issue.
Yeah, the goal would be to fix something immediately.
Got it.
If it happened.
Okay. Can I ask a follow-up?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So Mr. Trumbauer from the Budget Office said it's not anticipated to have a measurable fiscal impact. I was okay with it because you weren't charging it on the utilities. Do you have any sense of what it would be on the property taxes? Because I think you can charge like 1% a month. So
Yeah, there shouldn't be any fiscal impact either, because if it was an error or there was something, they shouldn't have gotten charged in the first place, so we don't really see that it would have a fiscal impact or minimal fiscal impact.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, seeing no additional lights from my colleagues, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 116-21 as amended. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
No, Madam Chair, we did not receive any submissions.
Thank you. We will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 116-21 as amended. Remarks will... Oh, I'm sorry, 115. I was getting ahead of myself. 115. 115 as amended. Again, we had no one signed up to speak in advance, but if there is anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak on this bill, you may come up to the table. Seeing no movement in the audience, the bill, or the public hearing on bill number 115-21 is, as amended, is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill number 115-21 as amended.
Bill number 11521, an ordinance concerning finance, taxation, and budget, real and personal property taxes, late interest, and penalties.
Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on bill number 115-21 as amended.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 11421 is passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the bill, or read the title of the bill, number 116-21 as amended. And this is our last bill from 2021, am I correct? We've finally closing out the year. Okay, anyway, sorry.
Bill number 11621, an ordinance concerning zoning, non-conforming uses, termination.
Mr. Barron, this is another admin bill. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pete Barron with the administration. Joining me at the table is our Deputy CAO for Land Use, Ms. Lori Rhodes, from OPZ, Ms. Miller, and your last chance to ask Ms. Kenny questions for the night. Again, this bill was discussed at the January 11th work session, January 18th meeting. Just to remind this council, 11621 updates code language regarding non-conforming uses within our zoning code. The purpose of the bill is to provide a longer period of time that will not be counted when determining that a non-conforming use or a structure that is damaged may be repaired, reconstructed, or relocated, provided that that non-conforming status of the property does not result in a greater non-conformance than previously enjoyed, and that it is located on the lot that it was originally located. Last meeting, we amended the bill to clarify language regarding the repair of non-conforming uses to ensure that homeowners don't come under greater regulatory burden for making repairs upon existing structures. Happy to answer any questions the council might have, but hope you will pass this bill tonight.
Thank you. I did not see who was first. Ms. Hare, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Hare, District 7. Mr. Barron, I think you just said it, but I had a constituent who called me and thought, I think in part because of the title of the bill, that somehow this bill was eliminating non-conforming uses. And I explained that that was not, but so just for anyone who might be confused, this bill helps those folks who have a non-conforming use a longer period of time to fix it if something goes wrong, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Pruski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, this is going to date my history. For those of you that understand the Board of Appeals, you hear a term called rebuttable presumption. And it's a term that's used with zoning cases. And I remember I had a maritime case that was similar to this, and you have to prove a certain number of years, pictures. But I asked this question because of whether it's climate, it's change, it's other things. I know that Annapolis recently got hit with a tornado. Hurricane Isabella, all the way from 2003, I can go back to Hurricane Andrew, whatever the damage is. And I guess my question is, just to be clear, so the zoning office and the law office understand this, when we say badly damaged, and I think Mr. Barron just stated what we clarified exactly, that does cover someone that had utilities running to a structure such as, electricity or other things that's there along with water, and just say it was unused, because they didn't have either the funds to repair it or whatever else. But to be clear, this bill allows them, if that structure was in place, again, it's non-conforming, that they would be able to rebuild it in that same fashion, not greater. But I want to be absolutely clear that that's the case.
That's the case.
Okay, thank you. And zoning won't prohibit, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Zoning won't prohibit them from repairing or replacing whatever was damaged, to be clear.
To be clear, that's correct.
Thank you.
They nodded yes.
Laura Jones, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer. This is a really flexible bill because, as you and I know, non-conformings are supposed to wither on the vine and die. So this bill actually breathes life into these structures where a property owner may purchase a property where the previous owner allowed something that was damaged to go without repair. So this provides that opportunity for that owner to repair it and
Thank you for the
continue to use it.
clarification.
I appreciate your metaphor of withering on the vine and dying. All right, I'm seeing no more lights. So at this time, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 116-21 as amended. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
No, Madam Chair, we did not receive any submissions.
All right, then we will now invite members of the audience who signed up beforehand to address the council on Bill number 116-21 as amended. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Once again, we did not have anyone sign up in advance, but if there is anyone in the audience who would like to come down and share your thoughts on this bill, now would be the time to do so. Once again, seeing no movement in the audience, the public hearing on Bill number 116-21 as amended is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 116-21 as amended.
Bill number 11621, an ordinance concerning zoning, non-conforming uses, termination.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 116-21 as amended.
Ms. Fiedler. Aye. Ms. Hare. Aye. Ms. Lacy.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Radvian.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 11621 is passed.
And we officially finished with all of our legislation that had been introduced in 2021. Yay, go team. All right, Bill number 1-22. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 1-22.
Bill number 122, an ordinance concerning current expense budget supplementary appropriations.
This is an admin bill. Mr. Barron, you may have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I got a bunch of folks joining me. They might not all be able to fit at the table on this one. But if they don't, if you ask a question, we'll bring them. We even have some people who are stuck traveling and couldn't make it. But there's a lot of folks here for this bill. Starting with Mr. Terrell from Budget is with me. Our sheriff is here, or he's back here. Our sheriff, Mr. Jim Fredericks. We also have Mary Lynn Bobbitt from Health, Carissa Kelly from Aging, Aaron Karpowitz from ACDS, and because this bill ends in -22, we get Ms. Blair Klausmeyer back. So this bill was discussed at the previous work session. Bill 121-22 makes supplementary grant appropriations to the Sheriff's Office, the Health Department, Aging, OIT, ACDS, and the State's Attorney's Office. The appropriations total $12,240,000, of which $10 million is directed to the Revenue Reserve Fund to bring the amount to the maximum allowed under county code. Other things in the bill include recognizing $107,000 to the Sheriff's Department for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant. There's an innovative prosecution grant. The State's Attorney's Office won this year for a 2-year federal grant in December 21. The grant doesn't cost the county or the State's Attorney's Office any money. It funds a licensed clinical social worker that will help and the SAO do their job, and they are interviewing for the position now. $193,000 to help fund the Sheriff's Body-Worn Camera Program, $555,000 to the Department of Aging to deliver meals to the elderly, $446,000 to the Health Department for childhood lead poisoning prevention and the local overdose fatality review team. Our auditor did a good job in the blue letter going through all of this. Mr. Taru is here to answer the tough questions. I hit the highlights. Hope you'll pass the bill today.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Any questions from my colleagues? All right, seeing none, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 1-22. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
Yes, Madam Chair, we did receive one submission that went to the entire council. It has been included in the summary that is posted online. It is also a part of the record.
Thank you. We will now invite members of this audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 1-22. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. We actually have one person signed up, Mr. Michael Hebb Sr. If you are here, you may come down and testify. Well, I guess our panel gets to stay put. Oh, I'll make one last call, actually. If there's anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this bill, now would be the time. All right, seeing no movement in the audience, the public hearing on Bill number 1-21 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 1-22.
Bill number 122, an ordinance concerning current expense budget supplementary appropriations.
Is there any further discussion or any discussion? Oh, Mr. Volke, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Barron, you're only $444,000 under the cap on the revenue reserve fund. So you're really close, but I love to see you putting all that money in there.
It's good, right?
I did the math, and I was like, you are really close to the cap, so good job.
I'm going to mark that down, sir.
You should.
Go team. All right. No further discussion. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 1-22.
Ms. Fiedler. Aye. Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 122 is passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the title of Bill number 2-22.
Bill number 222, an ordinance concerning capital budget and program Cox Creek Dredging 2 and Franklin Manor Dredging Capital Projects Fund Transfer.
Mr. Barron, again, this is an admin bill. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not really getting a break tonight, am I? From DPW, we have Mr. Braun and Ms. O'Connell. From Budget, we have Ms. McAllister. And from Office of Law, we have Ms. Blair Klausmeyer. 2-22 relates to the capital budget and program for the Cox Creek Dredging and Franklin Manor Dredging capital projects. If you'll recall, we discussed this at the 111 work session. The bill transfers $97,000 of general county bonds from the Franklin Manor Dredging Capital Project to the Cox Creek Dredging 2 Capital Project. The transfer should allow the county to support the completion of the Cox Creek dredging under revised fiscal analysis. We have our team here from DPW and Budget to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Oh, I see Ms. Hare's light.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Hare, District 7. This isn't really a question, but we discussed this at the work session just for anyone listening and who might wonder why we're transferring money out of the Franklin Manor Dredging Project. It's my recollection at the work session, there were cost savings. This doesn't negatively impact the Franklin Manor Dredging Project in any way, right?
Correct, and I'll let the professionals also say correct.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, we at Franklin Manor Project, we both got relatively good bids, and because of the beneficial reuse of the dredging material, it reduced the cost of disposal of what was pulled out of the channel. So we saved a significant amount of money on that project.
Perfect. I love that kind of engineering efficiency. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no additional questions from the council, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 2-22. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
No, Madam Chair, we did not receive anything ahead of time.
We will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 2-22. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Once again, no one had signed up in advance, but if there is anyone in the audience who would like to testify on this bill, now is your opportunity. Seeing no movement in the audience, the public hearing on Bill number 2-22 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 2-22.
Bill number 222, an ordinance concerning capital budget and program Cox Creek Dredging 2 and Franklin Manor Dredging Capital Projects Fund Transfer.
Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The January 11th meeting was a long time ago, so I don't remember if I might not have even been there, I'm not sure, but I wanted to ask DPW, with the 97 that's going into Cox Creek, can you just give me a quick, really, it doesn't have to be like super detailed, but just what you're going to be able to do with that in terms of the dredging up there?
At Cox Creek, there were two things that happened that raised the need for the funds. One was a change in the disposal site to an MPA site rather than the normal county site. Ends up costing more for the contractor to do that, but it saves the county in the long run because we're not taking up the capacity in our own facility for the site. And the other is there were significant delays in getting to construction after the bids because of permitting issues. And as a result of that, over about 2 years, there's a significantly additional amount of material that had been deposited in the channel that had to be removed.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Seeing no further lights from my colleagues, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 2-22.
Ms. Fiedler. Aye. Ms. Hare. Aye. Ms. Lacy. Aye. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 222 is passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the title of Bill number 3-22.
Bill number 322, an ordinance concerning personnel, positions in the exempt service, public ethics, financial disclosure, resilience authority director, positions in the classified service.
Mr. Barron, once again, no break in admin bill. You may have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From personnel, I have Ms. Collins, our sheriff, is joining us at the table, and Ms. Lori Blair Klausmeyer is sticking around from Office of Law. Just to remind the council this again, another one from that big work session on the 11th. 322 adds positions in the classified and exempt service. This bill adds the Resilience Authority Director at grade E07. This bill will allow the stability to recruit a successful candidate and allow Anne Arundel County to compete for highly qualified individuals for that new position. This is the approach that is paralleled by our Economic Development Corporation, where the director is an employee of the county. In the classified service, the sheriff is bringing the body-worn camera program online, and the positions that are being funded will assist in that program. It's a management assistant 2, an NR17, program specialist 2, an NR17, and a deputy sheriff corporal in S1A. We hope you'll pass the bill tonight, and our team is here to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, this is a position control bill, not a funding bill, right? There's no appropriation tied to this.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Seeing no additional lights, Madam Secretary, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 3-22. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
Yes, Madam Chair. There was one submission of testimony that was received. It went to the entire council. It's included in the summary that is posted online, and it has been added to the record.
Thank you. We will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 3-22. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. There was, again, no one who signed up, but if there is anyone here who wishes to speak, you may come up to the table, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no movement in the audience, the public hearing on Bill number 3-22 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 3-22.
Bill number 322, an ordinance concerning personnel, positions in the exempt service, public ethics, financial disclosure, resilience authority director, positions in the classified service. Are there any additional
I see no lights. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 3-22.
Ms. Fiedler. Aye. Ms. Hare. Aye. Ms. Lacy. Aye. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 322 is passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the title of Bill number 4-22.
Bill number 422, an ordinance concerning finance, taxation, and budget, and capital program.
Thank you. Once again, an admin bill. Mr. Barron, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joining me back at the table is Ms. McAllister from Budget and Ms. Klausmeyer from the Office of Law is sticking around. Something tells me this bill is going to keep our little 7-0 streak going. This bill it made me laugh when they told me we had to do this bill. Apparently, our code refers to a company that we must use a map reference when we do the budget book. That's silly. It's old technology. I tried to find one of these map books because I used to have them. I am old enough to do it. Could not find them.
I just threw 20 away out of my coat closet. That's where they've been for the past 15 years.
So just to make it's silly and we're joking, but just to be serious for a second, the budget is still going to have a map reference for capital projects. You will still be able to see where it's located. We are just getting rid of the reference to a company that no longer exists. Please pass the bill.
Mr. Volkey.
Is it going to be a better looking map than what's in the budget book currently? Because that's a bad looking map.
We're working on it.
Great.
All right. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 4-22. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
I'm afraid there was nothing received.
We will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 4-22. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Once again, no one signed up ahead of time. If there is anyone here who wishes to speak, please come to the table, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no movement in the audience, the public hearing on Bill number 4-22 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 4-22.
Bill number 422, an ordinance concerning finance, taxation, and budget, and capital program.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing no lights, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 4-22.
Ms. Fiedler. Aye. Ms. Hare. Aye. Ms. Lacy. Aye. Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 422 is passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please read the title of Bill number 5-22.
Bill number 522, an ordinance concerning licenses and registrations, amusements, licensing of coin-operated amusement devices.
All right, Mr. Pruski, this is your bill. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is about a year that I've dealt with this bill. I think I've learned more about coin-operated machines than I ever wanted to know. But I think it's important to understand the background, but also thank the folks that did it. I had a constituent reach out and ask the questions about why the licensing fee for certain coin-operated machines is the way it is. It was an inquiry. And we certainly did some digging and found out that in the 1960s in Anne Arundel County, code was put in place because coin-operated machines were becoming a thing, right? It's a type of gaming. With the help of the law office, Ms. Holly Vasquez and Pete Barron, and I don't know how many other people in the state reaching out to the Gaming Commission and other folks, we found actually our code, I don't want to use the word not in compliance, but wasn't necessarily in line with where it should be. And let me highlight the pieces of the bill. First of all, there are 3 tiers of licensures for coin-operated gaming machines. And to give you an example, the claw machine, right, that you get your teddy bear out of, or, other coins that you put in is an example of what's there. But that Class E license is individual to each individual machine. Under the current law, it is 8 Class E licenses are allowed in a location. The bill that I'm trying to move, it would move it to 19. The reason for that is we have small businesses, particularly in my district, bowling alley, a restaurant, a skating center that essentially have been limited for that. And obviously, you'll find out in a second the type of licensing fee they'd have to get if it was beyond that 9 machines. The Class I is issued to businesses that rent or lease gaming machines to other establishments. Previously, a business that owned its machines had to have that license, as well as the Class E and FA license. The bill removes that requirement, so again, it's kind of a lessening in the regulation. Last but not least is the Class FA. It's one license for a single location with 20 or more machines. There's no top limit on the number of machines a business can have, and that's $5,000 for a license. Basically, what you had is small businesses who had a threshold, who wanted to have 10, 11 machines, coin-operated machines, were paying the same, as someone who had 9. So really, this is a matter of initial cleanup. When we reached out to, obviously, the law office and others, there were some other things that we needed to tighten up in here, and that's where we got to the bill today, simply cleaning up the code. And there are many instances in the code, by the way, since 1960 that things have changed. For instance, I remember we were going over another zoning bill, and it had to deal with medical marijuana. When the planning and zoning officer at the time tried to define a place of worship. You can't define a place of worship, especially today. And again, those were some of the things that we discussed. But essentially, I want to clean up the outdated codes in this section. The bill doesn't apply to gambling machines. Some people ask, are you trying to regulate casino, live Maryland, or other things? It does not. It basically clarifies such as pinball, skee-ball, arcade game style machines. And there was a state law that was actually passed too. And this was a $30 wholesale value of the prizes. And I want to thank Ms. Fiedler. She had some constituents who had questions and concerns, and there'll be an amendment coming to clarify that. Some folks kind of wanted to know exactly what we meant, because we do have operations where you get tickets, for instance. The accumulation of those tickets may have a value of over $30. And really the state law was put into place for that $30 piece so that, machines weren't essentially gambling. You're getting over a threshold that has a concern. So I know I said a lot there. I want to thank everyone for getting involved. It's not the most exciting law, coin-operated machines, but I certainly know when this is done, I'm going to give my aide a roll of quarters and send them to the bill signing so that, other duties is assigned. But thank him and thank Brian for doing this. And again, I hope that everyone can support that and eventually the amendment to modernize our section for coin-operated game machines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pruski. Mr. Barron, would the admin like to respond?
Just coming up with nicknames for Brian right now. So Pete Barron with the administration, we have Ms. Velez from INP and Mr. Ritter from Law. As the sponsor noted, lots of work went into this bill to do it. Sometimes things look easy and pick at it a little bit and it gets a lot more complicated. So appreciate all the work that's gone in, particularly from the experts down at the other end of the table. And we're comfortable with the bill. Understand there's an amendment coming, comfortable with the amendment. So good. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from my colleagues? Seeing no red lights, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 5-22. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
Madam Chair, there was no submissions submitted ahead of time.
Thank you. We will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 5-22. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Once again, no one signed up ahead of time, but if there is anyone in the room who wishes to speak, now would be the time to come down. Seeing no movement in the audience, the public hearing on Bill number 5-22 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 5-22.
Bill number 522, an ordinance concerning licenses and registrations, amusements, licensing of coin-operated amusement devices.
Thank you. I understand there is one amendment. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment clarifies that the maximum value of coin-operated amusement device prizes or awards applies per play of the device.
Mr. Pruski, this is your amendment. Go ahead and tell us about it.
Thank you. As I said before, the current language was not necessarily clear, and we're trying to align to state law, and the language in the amendment basically clarifies that the maximum value is per playing device. And that was the initial concern that was brought up by some of the constituents. And again, I hope that everyone could support that because it does clarify the real intention of the law, and again, to make sure that that's clear. Thank you.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Oh, go ahead, Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda Fiedler, District 5. I want to thank Councilman Pruski for introducing this amendment. We had an 11th hour phone call over the weekend, and there was some concerns from business owners who have changed with times and have really focused on the ticket and the redemption process. So we don't want to negatively impact their business, and we certainly don't want to crush the dreams of little Johnny, who has 5,000 tickets saved up, and with only 20 more visits to the gaming room at his local business, he might have enough tickets for that gaming device. So I appreciate the amendment, and we'll be supporting it.
All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 is adopted.
Bill number 5-22 as amended will be heard on February 22nd, 2022. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 15-22.
Bill number 1522, an ordinance concerning redistricting.
Mr. Pruski, you are the lead sponsor on this bill. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was a lot of discussion this evening in regards to our Charter Review Commission. And this council appointed that Charter Review Commission, and every 10 years they look at many different things, including the maps for the county council. And I want to point out that they did send a report to the council along with 3 different maps for us to consider. We also do have a deadline in front of us, February 22nd, when candidates have filed. I think it's obviously does have an impact upon our decision, and I wanted to give an explanation on why I submitted map 2 and also why I think it's important to vote on a map. Number 1, map 2 is a simple adjustment that was put forward by the Office of Planning and Zoning, but also approved by the commission majority, not everyone, but most of them. It respects the community of interest, which is the law in which we should be, and also looks at national geographic boundaries, which is important. I know often those can't be met, but what we mean by geographic boundaries in terms of the law is roads, waterways, obviously anything that would make a community of interest. Based upon current population, a mathematically ideal councilmatic district would be around 83,000 people. One concern, and I'm going to speak parochially, but it also impacts District 1 and some other districts, but District 4, for instance, right now has 91,618 residents, 8,000 more people, okay, than obviously the ideal district. And this has an impact about diluting the voting power of those residents. And it's important to me and to them as their representative that we make every effort, as has every single council prior in a bipartisan fashion, has voted on a map to move forward to make sure that we reallocate the communities of interest based upon census data. I do realize that census data was late, and that is an argument, but ultimately it is our job, as we have before with many different debates, over mass, over healthcare, over finances. We have made decisions in a timely fashion, and I'm asking council members to do that same this evening. I believe the proposed map offered in map 2 is a simple adjustment and essentially allows every county resident to have an opportunity to be equal to other county residents, and I think that's important. It's a basic issue of fairness. I also want to recognize that our county is changing. We had just had that discussion with public financing, but having the number of districts and staffing is another discussion. We simply have a vote right now to bring forward how many residents can be in a district and how they will vote. And again, I want to thank the Office of Planning and Zoning and the Charter Commission for bringing something forward. Whether it was their decision in terms of discussion, ultimately, they did bring something forward and there was a vote. So to say that they didn't have a chance or they didn't have other things, I just don't think that's the case. Again, we're the council, we have to make decisions, and I hope that people consider, when we do look at the maps, again, the citizens and the voters, because that's ultimately what matters when we make this decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pruski. Ms. Pickard, you are also a co-sponsor of this resolution, if you'd like to have the floor. Bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo my colleague's sentiments. I think our Charter Review Commission worked extremely hard to get us 3 maps for this council to consider. 3 of us have co-sponsored this bill, bringing forward the simple adjustment of map or of Plan 2. I have spent considerable time over the last month and a half looking at this map and understanding the various boundaries, and I think this does what the law and the Constitution wants our public body to do. Apportion our districts as equally as possible while keeping districts contiguous and respecting communities of interest, like Mr. Pruski acknowledged. This map is not going to land this county council in court like our state may end up. So I feel really good about this map. I feel really good about the way these district lines are drawn. I think this map should get a 7-0 vote tonight, and we can come out singing Kumbaya and feel like we have done our duty to apportion the 7 districts in a way that meets the law. I applaud the Charter Review Commission with the help of OPZ and their tireless efforts this fall to get this done. So I hope we can get a 7-0 vote on this map tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Pickard. As another co-sponsor of this bill, I just want to chime in. I appreciate this map. Well, first off, I appreciate all the work that OPZ and the Charter Review Commission did in really expediting their work to make sure that this was done, so we could actually have new maps in time for this coming year's election cycle. But I also appreciate the simplicity of it. The vast majority of county residents will remain in their same district. The districts are nice and compact, and they're contiguous and everything, and evenly balanced in terms of population. They're everything you would want in a fair map. So I'm glad to be a co-sponsor, and I hope my colleagues will also support it. Before I take questions from my colleagues, I would like to allow the administration to respond. No.
Admin's not here.
Oh, Mr. Barron's coming up.
Okay.
Because I think this is purely a legislative function, and it's
Okay.
exempt from
So
executive.
that's not maybe
detail.
appropriate for the executive to respond on this. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Corby.
Okay, that's understandable. I always like to give everybody a chance to talk. Anyway, okay, so Mr. Volke, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nathan Volke, District 3. So I just want to confirm a couple things about this map, because the iteration that is in front of the council as a bill doesn't actually have a map. So if a person in the public is clicking on our website and going through, all they can see is a description of census blocks and things like that. You would actually have to look at the Charter Revision Commission's report to be able to see the map. Is that correct?
Lori Blair, Class 9, Deputy County Attorney. I thought the map was part of the background materials. I have to defer to Ms. Corby.
I was just on the website and I don't see it, so I don't think anybody publicly accessing it could get it. Maybe we have it, but that was my question.
It is a part of the background materials, and if you go to where legislation is posted, and you go to Bill 1522, if you click on that, it takes you to the full page for Bill 1522, and there is a link to the maps. It's an interactive, it's a really cool tool that actually OPZ set up. And it walks you through all of the change areas as well.
I see it, yeah.
Which we thought that was a little more helpful to anyone that was evaluating the bill as opposed to kind of a flat map. This really breaks it out.
Okay. So just to confirm with the map that we're voting on, my district doesn't change at all, right? District 3 has no changes.
From looking at, Mark Burt from Office of Planning and Zoning, from looking at that, I don't think that there were any changes to District 3.
And there's no changes to 2, right?
There were changes to 2. There should have been changes to 2.
District 2 had changes? I didn't think it did.
I would have to go back and look at it.
Okay.
The purpose of Plan 2 was to, bring the population of the county within that 10% deviation. It addressed this by looking at District 4 and District 1 to try to decrease the populations and increase the populations of Districts 5 and District 6.
I got it. You almost counterclockwise turn to bring the population down. I'm tracking with you. I just want to confirm on the record I'm looking at the right map before I vote on this, because the packet that's in front of the public, if you go online and look at it, I just want to make sure that we're all clear. So my district has no changes. District 2 has no changes. District 1, I think, moves basically precinct 126 over in the western part of the county into District 4, but that's the only change for 1. District 4 has some significant changes where there is some giving of population to District 5 and District 6, which both need to add population, and District 7 comes up and adds a little bit of population in the middle of the county too. Am I looking at the right plan?
I believe so.
Okay, all right, that's just what I want to confirm. Thank you.
Ms. Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a point of record for the public, we've had these maps. The public has had access to these maps. And I know my constituents that receive my public newsletter and follow my Facebook page have certainly been informed of this public hearing tonight and the proposed map that was introduced. So I don't want anybody to think that this hasn't been publicly distributed, which is where I think my colleague is trying to go. Thank you.
All right, seeing no lights from my colleagues, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 15-22. Madam Secretary, do we have any testimony received from members of the public?
Yes, Madam Chair, we actually received 2 submissions of testimony through the online testimony tool. That went to the entire council. It's been added to the record. It's also included in the summary that is posted online.
Thank you. We will now invite members of the audience who signed up before the meeting to address the council on Bill number 15-22. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. We have 2 speakers signed up, Kellen Morris and Kurt Svensson. You may come down to the table. And it looks like maybe just Mr. Svensson. Please state your name and address for the record.
Kurt Svensson, Arnold, Maryland. I support Bill 1522, a simple adjustment that minimizes disruption in existing boundaries, yet makes a significant improvement in the key metric used to measure compliance with the one person, one vote principle. That is, the population deviation between the most populous district and the least populous district comes in at 3.84%, down from the 18.37% of the existing map, and well below the 10% legal threshold that renders a district map presumptively constitutional. Unfortunately, the calculation of this rather simple legal threshold has been complicated by staff and made worse by the go-between between the deputy county attorney and the councilman from the 3rd District at the last council meeting. I quote the council member's question. My understanding is that there is an ideal district size, and the constitutional standard is that you cannot have a district that deviates more than 10% from that ideal size, and not that there can't be more than a 10% deviation between any districts. Am I understanding the law correctly here? In response, the deputy county attorney said, the way I read the Supreme Court cases is exactly what you're saying. It's 10% up or 10% down. Well, this contradicted her testimony to the Charter Revision Commission just a few days earlier when she explained, and I quote, "The deviation that we're talking about in looking at it for purposes of are we complying with the law is deviation from each other, not how they deviate from the ideal, but how they currently deviate from each other," end quote. Thankfully, the redistricting final report of January 10th gets this right and in writing. Bill 1522 gets the population deviation down from 18.37 to 3.84. It deserves a unanimous vote tonight. Please keep the momentum going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Svensson, and thank you for your consistent engagement with the council's work. If there is anyone else who would like to speak, now come on down. Have a seat, state your name and address for the record.
Dave Morseberger, David Seville, District 7. First, I attended the Charter Review Commissions, and surprisingly, I publicly testified for the maps, and I highly recommend everyone go and take part in that, just like coming to the county council. First, with the help of Mark Burt in the Office of Planning and Zoning, I evaluated all three proposals that were recommended, and all are fair from a race, ethnicity, and population perspective, so that's great. You know, anybody can find issues in any map and say, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that, I didn't have enough time to look at it. But, you know, we don't want to focus on the negative. You know, as I think Councilman Pruski said, a decision has to be made. The filing deadline's coming up. Candidates and voters need to be prepared for the upcoming election. So therefore, I'm in favor of 1522, map number 2. And what I hope is the county quickly updates the information on their website so candidates and voters really know where they fall within this redistricting map. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing no additional movement in the audience, the public hearing on Bill number 15-22 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 15-22.
Bill number 1522, an ordinance concerning redistricting.
Councilwoman Lacey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note that, you know, we all make mistakes. I'm glad that where we are with Bill 1522 is any mistakes have been corrected. It's very clear which parts of the county are being shifted into other councilmanic districts, and we've achieved the balance that we needed to achieve through reapportionment. So I hope my colleagues will support this bill as well.
No further discussion. All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 15-22.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacey.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 1522 is passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Is there any other business to be brought before the County Council at this time? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. The County Council is adjourned until February 15th, 2022, when we will meet virtually for a council work session. Thank you all for coming tonight.